And here we go. Digital Adele back with another Hoops Profile Beyond the Backboard podcast for you with my co host, Matt Hanifan. How are you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, I am doing outstanding. Much better than all of Heat Nation on Twitter, on the Five Reasons Sports Discord. Fans around the world are in shambles tonight. And that is due to the 2025 NBA draft lottery. I think it has made for the most interesting outcome and ripple effects throughout the entire draft. Not because I want to poke and prod Heat fans, but because the way this fell, there's going to be some really interesting machinations that can happen out of this. And I want your genuine thoughts as we walk through this. So, I hate to pour salt on your wound, but what do you feel about the Dallas Mavericks getting the first overall pick? And talk to me about what the odds were and what significance that had.
Well, the Dallas Mavericks. We'll fast forward a little bit. I really don't have to fast forward for me, but like the Luka Doncic trade that happened in February, he gets traded away. Their season kind of collapses on itself. Kyrie Irving, gets hurt, tears his ACL out for the season. Quentin Grimes plays the best basketball of his life after being traded away for Caleb Martin, who really hardly played with Dallas, or at least he hardly played effectively with Dallas. They after the Heat, they advance past the play and they become the first team in NBA history, the first 10 seed in NBA history to make it out of the play-in. Dallas has the 11th odds. They were in a tiebreaker with Chicago, I believe that's who it was. They were able to, win that tiebreaker via coin flip or whatever random drawing that they have for those tiebreakers.
Right.
And so Dallas had the 11th best odds. Chicago had the 12th best odds. And then obviously Dallas made a 10-spot leap to earning the number one pick. That's tied for the largest in NBA history. That's only happened one other time in the lottery, and that was after I think the 92-93 season with I think Orlando did it, and they got Chris Webber. And that was the only other time it happened. Obviously, last year the Hawks moved from 10 to 1, so they leaped 9 spots, which has only happened, a couple more times. So like really these big leaps, especially in, it's just not very precedented. Dallas, a team that really none of us thought would potentially get the number one pick. Obviously, the conversation for a while, it was either Charlotte, Utah, or Washington, who had, they had the 14% odds of getting the number one pick.
Right.
Utah had the top just because they were the worst record. And so the furthest they could fall was 5. And guess who got the 5th overall pick? The Utah Jazz. Washington couldn't fall below 6. They got the 6th overall pick. And then Charlotte had a 12% chance at getting 4, and they got 4th. I think they were able to fall to like 6 or 7 was their.
So what you're telling me is tanking doesn't pay.
If you look at it in this, I think the first year of this new lottery format with like it de-incentivizes like, drastic tanking with the 14% chance odds all across the board. I think previously it was like 25% or something like that. And so it de-incentivizes tanking. The team who's been at the top pre-lottery has never gotten the number one pick.
Wow.
There's been a couple of times where like the teams in the top 3 get it, like Detroit got it in 2021. I think they were 2. San Antonio.
That's Cade Cunningham for those keeping track at home.
Yeah. San Antonio got it in the Wemby draft. The team in 2022, I think it was Orlando. They were also 2 and they leapt up to 1. So it's not like these teams sort of finishing, first or second, third, or fourth or whatever in terms of like the lottery. Like it's not like they're never getting the number one pick, but like Utah, for example, if they won the lottery, they would have been the first team with the top odds. Even though it's not technically the top odds for the number one pick, but like the best odds to not fall out of the top 5, they would have gotten. They would have been the first team to secure that, I believe.
Right.
And it would have been the first time in their franchise's history that they've gotten the number one pick. It was the same thing with Dallas. Thing with Dallas is they've never moved up in the lottery. I think it was like, I read somewhere it was like they've been in the lottery like 17 times or 16 times.
Right.
And last night was the first night that they ever moved up in the lottery, which is pretty crazy. Like the most notable one, at least in recent memory, which was they had the third highest odds in the 2018 draft. They lost 2 spots. Ultimately, they traded back up, and that's when they got Luka.
You know who else has never won the lottery?
Why are you setting me up like this, man? Why are you pouring salt on the wound?
I want you to address it.
The Heat.
The Miami Heat have never moved up in the draft lottery either. And the reason why that's significant is because for most of the season, they had the 11th best odds.
Around 11. I think it got as high as 8.
And what would the 8th best odds got you in this draft? The number 2 overall pick.
Right, yeah. It's just, dude, it's so stupid how this works. Like, I'm not someone who's a conspiracy theory guy. I'm just not. Never have been. Never will be.
Yeah.
And so people will say it's rigged. People will say any sport that doesn't go their way in general.
Right.
That's just how society works. And so it's just like, all right, whatever. Unfortunately, they don't let us see the lottery process. They do it like behind closed doors.
Which is kind of strange.
I was gonna say I've always found that weird.
Right.
Not sure why that's ever been the case, but whatever.
The frozen envelope and the frozen ping pong balls and all the conspiracy theories you can think of. But what does this mean for Dallas as a franchise?
They're in a weird spot. Like, obviously, you get Cooper Flagg, you get, a guy that we've called a fringe generational prospect. They're not going to trade it, so don't. It's already been reported. McMahon reported it. Stein reported. They're not trading that pick. As much as people think and be like, "Oh, Nico Harrison's in charge of that pick," they might trade. No, they're not trading that pick, barring something completely unforeseen at this date. But the thing with them is like they don't have many assets outside of Coop.
This is their only pick too in this draft.
Yeah, and so like just for I don't remember exactly who I looked this up earlier. I can't remember exactly, but their 2027 pick and their 2029 pick is traded outright, and their 28 and 30 first round picks are swaps. So they can't trade any pick from 2026 through 2030. They still do have the Lakers 2029 unprotected first from the Luka trade.
Right.
In addition to this year's pick, and then obviously the 2031 pick or 2032 pick, whichever one, or no, it would be the 2032 that would become eligible to be traded, but that wouldn't be finalized until after draft night. And so they would still have 3 tradable firsts, but obviously they're not going to trade one of them. So really 2 tradable firsts.
Right.
Their only young guy that has a ton of value is Lively.
Yeah.
And so it's like they're in a really weird, because it's like Kyrie's out for the year. Anthony Davis is entering. He's going to be in his mid-30s.
Do you trade Anthony Davis and go young?
You would have to, but I wonder what the market would be for him.
I agree. I mean, he's oft injured, but he's your only real tradable asset outside of Derek Lively. And at this point, if you don't think they're a contender, and just to bring a comment from our YouTube audience, if you're here like Guru-san, send us a comment. We want to hear from you. He says, I naively think the Mavericks are like a top 2 team in the West. That team is so good defensively, they're going to be amazing.
They're going to be a pain in the butt.
He also says Utah and the Wizards are just losing for fun.
They have PJ, who's going to be on an expiring contract, and they have Gafford. Those are your only other ones that, like, maybe you can flip Caleb Martin. Maybe you can flip Najee Marshall, who had a good year. Like, Max Christie probably has some value. All of those guys are below $10 million in contract, or like they have less than $10 million in salary for this next season. So it's like they're not big contracts that you can put in as salary fillers. And yeah, they're just in a weird spot. Like, I think they'll be competitive, assuming they
Right.
stay healthy. But if I'm looking at this from as in Nico Harrison's perspective, it's like, okay, I just lucked into this.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm just completely lucked into this. Now I have to figure out how to build around this guy.
That's the question. Can he rally from the depths of trading the biggest star that Dallas has seen since Dirk Nowitzki, and fix his mistake? That's the question.
I just don't know. Not that I don't really have much faith, but I just like it's a bad spot for Coop in the sense that they don't have a whole lot of stuff in the treasure chest. Like the thing with Washington, the thing with Utah, the thing with all these bad teams, it's like they were stockpiling picks. That's why
Right.
they were stockpiling assets. And obviously with Washington, they're the collection of young players. Same thing with Utah to an extent. Charlotte, maybe not as much, but like they were stockpiling picks and assets that they could either consolidate in the future if they became competitive or use to add more talent depending on the situation and whatnot. Dallas doesn't really have either of those two things. And so it's just like
it's going to be interesting.
It's very interesting.
Yeah,
very
it's going to be interesting.
That's why it's a fascinating number one pick outside of the reasons why I dislike it, mostly for my own personal interest with the
your consternation, to quote Ethan Skolnick from his parody video with Amir.
Yeah.
That's right. You have lots of consternation about it. But Ryan says on the YouTube chat, "Hey guys, I can see the Spurs paying to move from 2 to 1. They've got the picks and Harper to Dallas, and it makes sense for them. I could see him paying for it too. I just can't see Dallas doing it because Dallas has already come out and said they're not even open to listening to offers. They're picking Cooper Flagg. So Cooper Flagg is your pick.
Yeah.
But that leads us into the number 2 overall winner of the draft lottery, and that's the San Antonio Spurs, who are going to be absolutely disgusting as a basketball team for the next 10 to 20 years. Absolutely disgusting. They have a choice to make, and this is where it gets very interesting. They have the 2nd pick, the 14th pick by the way of it, the Atlanta Hawks, and the 38th pick. Do they take Dylan Harper, figure it out later? Do they take Ace Bailey or Trey Johnson instead? Or do they trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo? They could do any of those things. And it leads me to an overall point about the draft in general. There's going to be trades all night long.
Maybe.
Well, because there's so many teams that have more picks than they can fit on their roster. It's going to happen.
That could be the case. I don't know. I've always been one, but like we hear a lot of like they could do this, they could do that, but then when it comes to draft night, nothing actually happens for trades.
There was a lot of trades the last draft, wasn't there?
Well, I'm talking about like not like I'm trading back a few spots and I'm stockpiling picks or however that works. That's mostly in like in the 2nd round, but like or in like late 1st round. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like we see like legitimate players moved.
Oh, you mean like earth-shattering trades? Well, I can't.
Maybe
I'm
not
not earth-shattering,
but like in like that have some sort of tangible impact.
I just think there are going to be a lot of trades. I don't know exactly if they're going to be small or big. I just know there's a lot of teams with like 4 picks, 3 and 4 picks, and not all of them can fit them because they're good teams.
Yeah.
Like OKC, where are they going to fit all their draft picks? Like it just doesn't add up. There's more YouTube comments coming in. Their G League team. They're going to have an all NBA G League team. Guru Sun says Harper doesn't fit with the Spurs. Castle, Fox are both under 30% from 3. Harper's only 33% at Rutgers.
Yeah.
Harper will make it work anywhere, though. That amount of talent, he'd make it work. But with that being said, I agree. I'd probably trade down a spot if I could,
Yeah.
and I'd probably take Ace or Trey. And I'm leaning Trey Johnson.
Yeah.
Because I think Trey Johnson might be the second best player in this draft. Ryan says, I agree. I can see them paying big in picks to move up one spot. Right, but they don't have a dance partner to do it, so
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
I'll be honest. If I'm San Antonio,
You'll be
trading
Giannis?
I would if I have to pick between Dillon and Castle to trade to Milwaukee, I'm probably leaning trading Castle. Like that's where I'm at.
I don't like your answer, Matt Hanifan, but I understand it.
I mean, like, okay, this goes back to this kind of. I was actually thinking about this last night. This kind of adds an interesting wrinkle to what we talked about with the 23 class versus this one.
Yeah, that was a good pod. I like that pod.
But instead of the 23 one, let's do last year's. Would you take Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle? It's like neck and neck. I don't know who to pick.
That's very tough. Very, very difficult. Because Harper's no slouch defensively. He might be a peg below Stephon Castle, but he's also, I don't know, man. I probably, me personally, I would take probably Castle.
That's fine. I wouldn't argue.
I
wouldn't argue with you if you had that perspective, but like that's what San Antonio has to choose, kind of, right? Like
it is kind of. You're right about that. That's kind of what their conundrum would be.
They can also just take Dillon and figure it out.
That was one of the three options laid out earlier. Yeah,
like that's very on the table, unless if you just feel like you want to trade De'Aaron, which I don't like.
There's no reason they would do that.
I don't think they would do that. It's still an option though, but I don't think they would do that.
Number 3 is the Philadelphia 76ers, Matt. Or did you have more on the Spurs?
No, I just want, like, they're in such an unbelievable spot to, like, they have a real chance to pounce and to compete.
Well, but let me ask you this, because they're in this unique spot. Do they take Trey Johnson or do they take Ace Bailey?
San Antonio?
Or VJ Edgecombe? No. Philadelphia 76ers.
Oh,
you're still talking about San Antonio.
I was still talking about. I just wanted to make that last comment on San Antonio.
Yeah, no, they are. They're primed to go any direction, and they have the assets to go get Giannis if they want Giannis. Yeah, for sure. What about the 76ers? They're in a unique spot.
I think the most under talked about winner from Monday night is Philly. I'm not going to try to predict what Daryl Morey does. But
you don't trust the process?
As of right now, I'm either leaning VJ or Trey.
So no Ace Bailey. What do you think about them grabbing Joel Embiid insurance and Kaman Malawach?
I wouldn't do that at 3.
I know it's really high.
No, I would not do that. If a team was willing to trade up to 3, like, let me look at this order again. If like Utah was willing to trade up to 3 or someone like that,
right,
and they wanted to take like a Trey Johnson, or they like at 5, I'd be comfortable with that. I'm not doing that at 3. I'm just not.
I agree with you. It's too high for Malawach. But the more I think about it, how do you trust Joel Embiid as your franchise player going forward?
You don't.
Right. So I think they need to start thinking about ways, because you already have Maxey, you already have McCain. You can make it work on the perimeter, but you can't make any of it work if you don't have Joel Embiid. So you need some sort of Joel Embiid insurance. So that's a blaring red flag to trade down, like you said.
Again, you'd have to get a good enough offer.
It takes 2 to tango for sure.
Yeah, like whether it's Charlotte, Utah, Washington, if it like maybe New Orleans or Toronto or someone like that wants to trade up, and they would, give you a little extra, considering how far they're trading down. But if I'm Philly, it's either one of those two guys. Again, I had mentioned Paul George has said before that he would take Ace over Cooper Flag, so maybe they do that.
This
but
pick screams Ace Bailey to me
it does.
because they have McCain and they have Maxey.
But that's where I think. I mean, I know you're not in disagreement with it, but like that's where I think Trey would be also a decent fit.
I have Trey over Bailey, so yes, I would take Trey here also. Yeah, because he can play the wing.
Right.
He can play on the wing.
I mean, they might go Ace, and it's just like, it Charlotte to Utah.
This is the thing about this draft. Like the Charlotte Hornets are up next. They got the 4th overall pick. They have the 33rd pick and the 34th pick.
Yeah.
Whoever, no matter which way the board falls, a very, 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 very good prospect is falling to them.
Right. Yep.
VJ Edgecombe, Trey Johnson, Ace Bailey. One of those 3 guys will be there.
To me, this feels like the VJ spot.
So you got LaMelo, you got VJ Edgecombe, Brandon Miller, redacted Miles Bridges, and who's their center? Is it Nick Smith?
No, they traded Richards. It was Mark Williams.
Mark Williams, not Nick Richards. He got traded. That's right. Let me ask you this too. Going through the process, we'll talk more about this at the combine. Do you think the NBA community is too low on Todd Pettiford? I feel like he's being underrated throughout this process, if not by the league, but by draft pundits.
I mean, you could. If I'm being honest, not saying we're right or wrong, the most important evaluation is our own. But you could probably say that we're too low on X versus the draft community.
Ryan Kalkbrenner.
I was more so gonna go call him Murray Boyles, but that fits too.
Dude, CMB, man, people have him so hyped up. Like, what are we missing, Matt Hanifan? I'm not changing my evaluation.
You think I am too?
What are they seeing, dude? What are they seeing? I don't know. I don't get it.
No, I'm not changing mine either.
Did you see Derek Queen's jump shot during the combine shooting drills?
I saw like a few seconds of it. I've seen, dude, this is the one thing that I'm going to get upset about. We can't overanalyze these shooting drills.
Thank you.
During the combine. I know I said this last time when we were talking about like stuff that we're looking for this week. We can't overanalyze this stuff. If you're going to overanalyze anything, it's like the form, the footwork, that maybe. But like most of these players are expected to shoot well during these drills. Just because they shoot well during these drills doesn't mean it will translate to a game-like environment.
Well, just to clarify for the audience, I retweeted his shooting form and said it looks like Charles Barkley's golf swing.
That's tough. But I just see so many people every year being like, well, look at this guy. He shot,
Yeah, they did it with Zach Edey too.
It's just like, if it's not translating to the game or games, obviously, these teams are going to put them through certain drills. I don't know what that is because every team is different with how they go about the pre-draft process and the testing and all that stuff. And so it's not like they're obviously privy to more information than we are, understandably so. But for people like you and I, we can only go off of what we saw during the season or seasons, depending on how long they've been in school.
And I think regardless of the private workout, what happened during the season has way more weight.
Sure. 100%.
Now, well said, Matt Hanifan. The Utah Jazz with the 5th pick, as you mentioned earlier, the 21st, the 43rd, and the 53rd. First question, do they take all 4 of these picks?
I think they're Danny Ainge he's probably called like Daryl Morey like 15 times. in the last 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like, hey, do you want to trade 3? Yeah.
Right.
I know I just called you 30 minutes ago, but have you thought about
But
trading?
are
Like
you
that, I think,
sure?
yeah, like just think about it a little bit more and call me back later. Danny Ainge just calls him back again.
Shows up at his house.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think they needed, like, they'd be, like you said, a great trade up candidate. And I also think that even at 5, they're going to get a very good basketball player. I think that would play right away for them. Because here's the other thing. I think Kaman Malawach could go here too. The reason why I say that is they've been trying to get off Kessler for a long time.
Yeah.
Kyle Filipkowski isn't your long-term answer at center. I mean, he may play alongside a center. So I think this is a great spot for Malawach.
It's also a spot for Khan.
It's a great spot. I can't talk. Great spot for Con Knipple. Absolutely.
And after this spot, this is where it gets funky because it's like Washington, who fell 4 spots. I mean, Utah also fell 4 spots, but
Hold on. Let's
Washington,
bring
who
up
fell 4
Washington.
spots, was never expected to be in this place to begin with. Like, are they trying to trade up? They have 2 top 20 picks.
Pick 6, pick 18, and pick 40. Do they dance with Utah? But let me ask you this question, Matt Hanifan. If they stay at 6, there's still a lot of good players because this draft is deep. It's a deep draft. What do they need? What do the Washington Wizards need?
I mean, obviously you can never go wrong with more shooting. Especially again, like we talked about when our best fits, like Sara wasn't a good shooter, Koulibaly wasn't a good shooter, Bub Carrington wasn't a good shooter, or at least long range shooter.
Right.
Like they just weren't very efficient from 3-point range last year. Obviously, we know the whole Jordan Poole thing. Like if they're ever able to get off that contract, would do wonders for them in the short term and the long term. And so
would
like
definitely help the growth of their young players.
Yeah, you could go Khan here. If you want more facilitation and you want more like lead ball handling, I know Bub wasn't bad in that respect last year, but you can go Fears. If you want to add extra size in the front court and kind of take the burden off of Sar, you could go Malawach. Like there's so many different routes that they could actually go here. But I think
Malawach
shooting and like
gone,
offensive.
What about Ace and Newell next to Sar?
That's also he's my best big in the class, but like not again by a very slim margin. But like there's so many different routes that they could go with this. But I just think like shooting and like offensive punch is something that they need most of all. If you want rebounding.
But if you have Bub, you got AJ Johnson, you have who's the other one? Bub, AJ Johnson,
Koulibaly.
Bilal Koulibaly. You're not taking a Fears or a Richardson or a Pettiford or
No, that's true.
What about Kasparis Yakichonis?
No.
I didn't think so either. That's why I'm thinking it's a big or it's too early for a wing. There's no wing I would take here.
What if Trey Johnson fell? No.
Oh my God, dude.
What if would you go Ace if he fell?
Yeah, I'd go Ace Bailey here. Heck yeah.
Like that's the one, right?
Ace Bailey would be a perfect fit there. Let's move on to the next pick because we are going really slow through this. We are how many minutes into our coverage? We are holy crap. We're 30 minutes in. Dude, we are long-winded old people. The New Orleans Pelicans only have 1 pick in the draft, a number 7 pick. But Zion could be on the move. Could something happen here? Could they trade this pick away and move off Zion or get something back for Zion? Who knows? But let's say Zion stays put. Again, They're in prime position to pick a good player. What do the Pelicans need beside this? Is actually, hold up, perfect spot for Kasparas Jakichonis. This is actually a perfect spot for
Do tell.
They need offensive punch. DeJounte Murray's like a long-armed, mid-range, doesn't really facilitate very well type of guy. They're trying to move off of CJ McCollum. They're going to try to move off Zion. Brandon Ingram's gone. You bring in a Jakichonis who can do it all, is almost a walking triple-double type of guy. Pick and rolls with Misi, getting those role players into their spots so they can spot up in 3 and D, because that's kind of how the roster's built, except for backup point guard Jose Alvarado. I like it. I think it's a perfect spot for Jakichonis.
I like it.
Moving on. The Brooklyn Nets in their treasure trove of picks. 18, 19, 26, 27, 36. What do you think happens here?
Another possible trade up.
Yeah, definitely. That's a lot of ammo, man.
They have so much cap space, like they can do a lot of things in this draft, and it wouldn't surprise me.
Or they could be the Zion destination.
I could not see for the life of me Zion in a Nets uniform. No disrespect to the Nets, but
yeah, they're a prime trade up candidate, and they need everything.
Yeah.
Toronto Raptors, 9th and 39th. Is this the Derek Queen spot, as the mock draft says?
Best big available.
Thomas Sorber?
If you want to go Sorber, I'm not going to argue with you on that.
If Newell and Malawach are both gone, it would be Thomas Sorber.
In our book, yes. In our front office.
That's right.
I wonder what these teams' boards look like.
It is fascinating. I do wonder the same.
Yeah, like how high are the Raptors on a guy like Sorber versus, I don't know.
I think people are a lot higher on Sorber than the fans are. The Rockets have the 10th and the 59th pick. After the KD trade, where do they stand? He ends up in Houston, right?
Are you asking if KD ends up in Houston?
I think KD, yeah, he ends up in Houston.
The recent reporting, not sure how much weight to put into this, but the recent reporting suggests otherwise. But okay. I think they're also, all their eyes are set on Giannis. And so, like, once they inevitably strike out on that. Okay, maybe I'm being too mean when I say that. Once they likely strike out on that, they might go back to Durant and be like, you know what? We'll kick the can.
We'll take a gently used Kevin Durant.
The tires on this. But
if they keep the pick, Jace Richardson fights it out with Reed Shepherd. They move on from Van Fleet.
Yeah, this one's a tough one. I'd probably go there.
Probably Fears.
If Fears fall, I mean, for Houston though, I would probably go Jace over Fears.
So that means Portland has a Scoot Henderson decision to make at 11.
Why does Tankathon have Newell going here?
I don't know.
Add to their collection of bigs.
That's right.
Asa Newell at the 2.
Asa Newell, that's right. Plays point guard. Beats out Scoot Henderson for point guard.
Would be a tough look for Scoot.
It already is. He's already coming off the bench in year 2. Going into year 3.
Yeah, probably best available guard. I don't like it when we get to the teens.
It's tough.
Just where some of these teams are at.
Chicago got the 12th pick. They have 12 and 45.
Yeah.
And then Atlanta got the 13th pick, and they also have the 22nd pick. Colin Murray Boyles is the new who was the undersized power forward they had forever? What was his name? John Collins. He's the new John Collins.
Oh man, at least John Collins could shoot.
I agree.
But he couldn't play a lick of defense. Still can.
Nope. Neither Murray Boyles can play a little bit of D. A little bit. He's stocky. Husky. San Antonio Spurs close out the lottery with the 14th overall pick. Likely not to be their own. They're probably going to trade it.
So do you think they trade both picks?
I think if they go get Giannis, yes. I think both have to go. I don't think they can keep both.
Why? Because they have so many picks that they can trade in the future.
All right, let me ask you this:
including
at 14,
including Atlanta's in the future.
So, but do you think they'd have to trade the number 2 pick?
Yes, I don't think they'll have to trade 14 though.
So at 14, say they get Giannis, who you taking at 14?
I mean, you could go
Rasheer Fleming.
I was thinking about him. You could also, like, if you really want to get spicy, if Sorber's still there, you can go Sorber.
Oh my God.
You could go again, if you really want to make things interesting, which we all know how like unpredictable this stuff is. Maybe Danny Wolf.
Danny Wolf would be great. Liam McNeely would be really good there. I like it. They got a lot of options, dude, but I think it would be Fleming personally.
Listen, man. Well, again, I know we said we talked measurables and whatnot. Fleming, like the physical, like what, he's 6'8" with a 7'6" wing. Like that's crazy, dude.
With Wemby's wingspan, with Giannis, Steph Castle, how do you score on those guys? You don't.
No.
But that's it for us today. Matt Hanifan, tell the people where they can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
If you want to follow my depressing tweets for the remainder of the offseason, you can follow me at NPH_824_. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, like I'm not joking about my Twitter handle, but I won't have that many depressing tweets, or at least I'll try not to. You could also find me at highhopes.com, vendettasportsmedia.com, mountainwestconnection.com, as well as playback.tv/hoops profile and 5RSN. Yeah, man. I'm everywhere.
Cool, man. You can find me at Digital Adele on all social media platforms. That includes Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, all of it. Hoops Profile on YouTube and playback.tv/hoops profile. We are both contributors to 5 Reasons Sports Network, playback.tv/5RSN. We might show up for the playoff games tonight. We may not, but 5 Reasons Sports is definitely hosting them. We'll see you guys next time.